The subject of this review is a true gem of the found footage genre. A really, really unique science fiction film, currently having about a 6.3 at IMDb in terms of likability, and released in 2013, Europa Report. Now, here's the thing. Love this movie in its production. It is really a well-made movie. You believe they're kind of on Europa, although they get the science wrong in that particular part. The science of spaceflight seems to be well done. A lot of people praise this movie for its science and accuracies. And it takes a lot from 2001: A Space Odyssey. What it should have taken from 2001: A Space Odyssey was those colored flight suits, because I cannot tell the difference between the characters. And they're reasonably different characters, but they're all shot to be reasonably the same height. They don't speak enough to make those voices distinct, and they don't display a lot of emotion. Now, it is accurate for them not to display emotion because they're professionals doing a professional thing and having to remain calm. But it's hard for me to feel for these characters when I just can't remember their names. This is a flaw in the writing. I mean, one of those things you do to make somebody identify a character is inform the audience of their name. I mean, look, a film that's out in theaters as I filmed this, Creed. Two most famous characters in the Rocky Balboa series are Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa. We absolutely know who they are. If you go and watch Creed, you're going to notice his name, Creed, big part of that movie. So that's one of those things that you constantly know this guy is Creed, and it's symbolic of his struggle to identify himself. And then, of course, you constantly know that Stallone's character is Rocky, and they constantly remind you of that. Europa Report, I don't remember a single name of any character in this thing whatsoever, so I can't tell you who any of these people are. It was hard for me to identify with them, and I just didn't care. The other thing is that it starts out much as a sci-fi thriller and kind of degenerates, I think, into a horror film. So there being the thing is that what Europa Report really is Blair Witch in space. Or, well, not Blair Witch in space, but kind of Blair Witch in space. It's 2001 meets Blair Witch, I guess. If you read 2010: The Second Odyssey, it's very similar to the other team that made it to Europa in a chapter in that. There is kind of a spoiler there, so don't go run out and read that book if you really want to see this movie. But if you haven't read the book, there's a very... I mean, I thought... Really, when I saw this movie, I thought, gee, it's that one chapter blown up into an entire movie. Now, again, I really did like the set designs in this film. Scientifically accurate movie in many degrees, except for the gravity in Europa was a major downer for me. You could tell, like, hey, there should be at low gravity. I should see something different. They spent all this time and all this effort into making the zero-G scenes on the ship look real, and... I mean, they're good, they're not great. But then you did the Europa low-G scenes poorly, so I didn't care for that. But again, this is a found footage movie. You can hardly tell it's found footage, but it goes from surveillance cameras and helmet cameras, and there are reports and things. But part of it is given to you out of sequence, and I didn't care for that. It would have been fine if that sequence had been done earlier on, and in its chronological order so that they knew what was happening. And then later it's like, okay, we already have this tension because that happened. So now the crew is on edge to begin with because they have had this brush with mortality. Again, I liked Europa Report, but I felt it was on the slow side. I think that about almost every movie though, so don't let that fool you. I just don't think it was a real wower. I mean... It's a good movie. If you're into science fiction, if you love science and love space travel, I definitely think you should watch this movie. If you don't like found footage films in general, shy away from this. If you're not into science, if the fact that science is going on is not going to give you interest, this movie's just going to bore you. I mean, that's my take on it. You could tell me how wrong I am in the comments below.